Two frogs in trouble, that's the name of the tale, yeah. Big frog snooze near the pond as the sun warmed the large hump of his back. What a great day for doing nothing, he thought to himself. Blip, 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 little frog took off for the pond, and Big Frog's eyes were wide open now. Plop, plop, ploppity plop, he followed little frog, and together they crossed the pond to the barnyard, playing leapfrog and hide and seek along the way. They were having so much fun, they forgot that it was milking day. Plop, plop, they jumped straight into a pail of fresh milk. The sides were slippery and the frogs couldn't get out, help, help. At least that's what Big Frog yelled. Hoping somehow to escape, the two frogs swam around in the milk pail. They swam for hours. Big Frog began to swim slower and slower. Finally he groaned, why should I keep on trying? We will just die in this pail. I'm just so tired, I can't swim any longer. Keep on, cheered the little frog as he splashed around the pail. You must have the courage or you're gonna drown, don't give up. And they went on together for a while. Soon Big Frog stopped swimming. Little friend, it's no use, I can't get out, I'm gonna quit. I'm going to quit trying. So we did. Now little frog was all alone. He said to himself, well, if I give up, I'll be dead, so I'm gonna keep swimming. 2 more hours passed. Little frog's legs could hardly move. I can't swim another stroke, he moaned. Then he thought about what happened to his homie Big Frog. With every speck of strength in him, little frog cried out, even if I die trying, I won't give up. Where there is life, there is hope. Bursting with courage, little frog felt a tingle and new life come into his legs. He raced around the milk pail, splash, splash, splash for a long time. That is the only sound he heard. But he began to hear a new sound. Was his reality being blurred? Glob, 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 the white waves had turned to the thickest cream. Now it was even harder for him to swim, but little frog kept on with all his might, full steam. All of a sudden, he felt something under him. He looked down and saw his feet were resting on a small hill. Little frog swimming had turned the milk to butter. With a great leap of joy, little frog jumped out of the pail. To freedom, to freedom. That night, he hopped happily through the tall grass. Little frog smiled up at the moon and thought to himself, now I know it's true. There is always hope. From now on, I'll never give up. Never ever give up. And little frog never did. That's the tale of 2 frogs in trouble. That's the end of the fable. Now I hope that you're able to tell me, what kind of frog are you? We started this documentary over 10 years ago for so many reasons. I have witnessed a great disconnect in not just Western culture, but globally around touch and the power of our own healing technology. Throughout our education from childhood to adulthood, we have our primary growth and development. And by all logic, reason, and higher awareness, it would be pivotal for a species' evolution to know how their body works as it develops and comes into its first stages of maturity. I also saw a clear differentiation of many programs at work in the collective consciousness, disconnected from spirit. I was raised in these sciences in the West as I am a child of the baby boomer generation and was raised in the Kriya yoga system of Paramahansa Yogananda, and as many know her, the hugging saint, Amachi. It was a fascinating paradox to be raised in the Eastern spiritual sciences in the Western culture before they were westernized into a trendy New Age spiritual movement. Learning to meditate was given to me as a tool from childhood. And although I was hypnotically drawn into the Western culture via the Tell You vision and all of its indoctrination, I always had these spiritual tools or teachings, these homeopathic remedies and touch to connect with, to source. That was a turning point for me that led to uncovering this system to activate the body's inner physician or inner healer that will literally heal you. I have seen thousands of clients and patients over the last 20 years, and early on I saw that the most fascinating rebirthing process happens within each person as they release their trauma. Each uniquely different, as everyone's stress and trauma since birth is specific to them, as well as how they've experienced it over time and how they release it when they activate their mind-body paradigm. There were some very specific rebirths that were so transformational. They healed me and others witnessing in support. It was then that I knew showing this to the world was one of the most important things I was here on this planet to do, to release. Then we had a global shutdown of the world over a seasonal virus strain with a 99.99, you get the picture, survival rate. And the worst case scenario I had lectured about taking place for decades had come to manifestation and beyond what I ever could have imagined. Cut to over 2 years into a global pandemic lockdown based off the general ignorance and lack of non-indoctrinated institutionalized medical self-knowledge. The institutionalized Western medicine. Human beings are more fear-based and alienated to touch, to connection, and our humanity than I ever could have imagined. So I began the post-production lockdown process of reliving our magical journey through foreign lands, but familiar people. Sharing the power of healing as we follow some amazing individuals on their journey of healing thyself. And the power of what we're all holding from our past that must be released to heal and empower our present. I was shown when originally envisioning this powerful journey of bearing witness to a rebirthing process that it is those with the greatest challenges and ailments that are the most powerful to invoke one's own self-awareness to their healing process, calling from within. We're on the brink of a new age cosmologically, and that means a lot of change on the horizon. It seems we need to be finding that collective connection to our humanity now more than ever. All these magical people that you've seen have done that for us. And we believe by watching them that they'll do that for you too, as they embody such deeply connected aspects of our humanity that connects us all. So join us. We have quite a journey ahead, and we look forward to bringing you with us to bring more awareness about the power of release. All right, welcome to Matrix Body Mechanics Live. Whoa, Echo Fest. Welcome, everybody. Just gathering a beautiful Sunday, Release Sundays live broadcasts. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to the Divine Mother, and welcome to the broadcast. It's an honor to be with you, and just getting everything dialed here, and it's always a beautiful journey and challenge and gift to come together live, for me at least anyways. It's the morning time, and I have been on a beautiful journey of fire water baptism, and yeah, what a blessing it's been. But at the same time, it's up kicked my dream state to the next level prophetically. So yeah, I've been staying in the dream tank to actually complete like missions and plots and processes that I'll wake up and dive back into. In fact, you should clear your mind and your consciousness just so you can get more from your dreams. I'm telling you right now, it means more than ever in these times to utilize your dream state for communication with the divine and the divine father, divine mother. But we have quite a golden broadcast for you today. I hope it triggers and educates you. But in order to get educated, you have to break through the triggers, the indoctrination, the programming that you have. And the programming today, the triggers today, is going to run deep. It's going to be super personal for you all. And I have none other than the greatest foundation of knowledge and wisdom. And I considered myself to be a pretty awesome foundation until I met this guy. He's kicked it up to another level. He's actually kicked up my indoctrination deconstruction process, because I didn't realize there was some layers still in there until I got into the alchemical aging process that takes the medicine that we're about to talk about to another level, and it brought up other tiny layers I didn't even think were there anymore, because I blasted through what I thought was all of it around this powerful medicine. And for that, I truly bow to you, sir. When we originally came together on Santos Bonacci's channel for a broadcast, I came on as a guest, and yeah, wow. God gave me the name for you originally, the Pea Hobbit, because let's face it, all right, with the accent and everything, and but now it's actually come to another place for me. You are the Pea Dwarf, because see, dwarfs were magical and they had treasures. They had the gold and the jewels, and they mined for it, and they actually like protected it and also cultivated it, and they were the treasure keepers. So truly, the divine uropathy dwarf is with us, Harry Metadine. He's written several books on the subject we're going to get into, and I've been looking forward to this show for a while. I'm super excited to dive into it with you, brother. And welcome to the broadcast. We're going to be covering the golden spiral of health in uropathy, or urine therapy. That's right, folks. Your urine, drinking your urine. That's right. Pee urine. Let's see, what's some of the more derogatory terms? Piss. There's some ones, because they really work to indoctrinate us to look at this as a gross thing, and ultimately the indoctrination is you're gross. You're gross. Your body's gross. You're not this complex, supernatural, multicellular organic computer system that is so well designed it actually produces its own medicine that has all of its own antibodies in it for anything that's wrong with you, and it also has all of the nutrients from your food that you couldn't absorb. In fact, Harry's reflected, not only could you not absorb it, but it appears through the science, which we're going to get into, the science. Okay, the science. Not here here in my headphones, so I don't even know if I can hear you right now, Harry. Let me just check something quick.
Okay, can you hear me?
I know you can hear me, but yes. I can't hear any audio, so let me just check why that. 1 second, friends. Stick with us here. Let me just see. Preferences, audio. Okay. Boom. Let's see. Maybe this. Harry, say hi. Let me see if I can hear you.
Hi. Hi. Hello. Hi.
Is your mic mute? You might be
Hi.
muted. I'm not sure.
No. No.
No, you're good. Okay, hang on. Let me just see what's going on my end, guys.
I'm wondering if the audience can hear me.
There we go. I can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, there we go.
Awesome.
And there's me. Awesome. So yes. So in that regard, and not only that, but the science, which we're going to get into. Yeah, science. Actual science, not scientism. The science reflects that that your body actually seems to be able to absorb these nutrients better than actually from your food, almost as if you needed to pre-process them, which is interesting because lots of animals, including deer, they have to chew up their food and then they spit it back up. It's called cud, and then they have to redigest it again. It's almost like they run it through their own filter that way, which is interesting. But yes, Harry Metadine, brother, welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks for inviting me, Micah. I must say that I enjoyed being on the Santa show, and I really enjoyed your contribution. It was amazing to meet someone that blew my mind. You see, I hadn't visually seen you, but as soon as you started talking, I was like, this is giving me different angles of urine therapy. And that's what I love about it, because we're just one team here presenting a different angle to the ultimate truth that our urine is just freely powerful and most amazing as a fresh urine piece. But then, for some weird godly reason, it seems to amplify like times 1,000 each day that it grows older. Almost like maybe suggestion that you are powerful as a fresh urine when you're in your body, but maybe the body's like when it gets outside of the vessel, just purifies itself to become the aged urine that I know and love so much because it's so powerful. It's an amazing medicine.
Didn't you describe it too as almost as if it actually has time to filter out its own impurities? You said it gets
there's paradoxes, Mika, because I do believe, and I know this, that it's been invented by consciousness to create for our own perfect medicine. However, in this imperfect world, we're bombarded by EMFs and air pollution and people pollution, God. So in other words, it's good, but when you get it outside of our dirty vessel by consequence of the world being toxic now, it purifies itself to become the most amazing holy medicine ever, which is led me to writing books about it, led me to, you go on Google last week, I blew up all over the place in Brazil, Hungary, in the media, mocking us. But of course, there's no such thing as bad publicity. So we've all got, yeah. So I love it. I love because we're going to wake people up. That's what we're doing right now.
It means you're doing something right when they come at you with the criticisms. And I want to say, everybody, we're on Rumble. No, normally we do Sundays, release Sundays live on our YouTube channel, but from our last broadcast last week, we got a strike and we were banned for a week, which is weird because we filter the radio show where I cover all the stuff that gets us banned all the time on Rumble because we're not censored here. So Release Sundays Live was a more censored and, PG broadcast, if you will, our parental guidance from the tyrannical.
Do you mean no COVID, no talk of the vaccine and stuff, right?
All of that stuff, and honestly, we had Alex Anderson on. We talked about neuromuscular therapy, talked about shamanic medicines, and we kept thinking, like my producers and I, what did you say? What did you say? And I think it was chlorine dioxide. I talked about chlorine dioxide.
Huh. Yeah.
And then I also talked about the tobacco conspiracy. And that was we were like, oh, that's what it was.
Tell me more. Wait, so tobacco, is it good or bad?
Oh my gosh. Well, tobacco through history has been known as the cure-all for a cough. Ironically, we've been sold with this quasi-medical bullshit that tobacco causes lung cancer, although there's 60 years of scientific research that shows not one rat that was tested with tobacco ever got lung cancer from tobacco, but every rat exposed to radioactive plutonium got lung cancer within a week. So is it a coincidence that for hundreds of years, people smoked tobacco all over the planet? There was no lung disease, there was no lung cancer, but we started dumping radioactive plutonium in the atmosphere because we detonated 117 billion tons of radioactive plutonium from 1938 to 1963. And from the 1940s on, here comes lung cancer. So all the governments were involved in this. You can look it up. It was actually called something Operation Fishbowl. We started detonating nuclear bombs in the atmosphere, which I thought originally was just because we were being dumb idiots blowing off firecrackers to see what they would do, so to speak. But actually, they were trying to punch a hole in the electromagnetic field, the dome, the firmament, yes. And once by the time they realized they couldn't do it wouldn't work, they had already put 117 billion tons of radioactive plutonium around the atmosphere, and the dust particles that were radiated all over the atmosphere, which means roughly about, well, where the population's at today. It used to be about 117 doses per man, woman, and child on the planet. That was when there was, less people when this study was done. I think it was at least like 20 years ago. So I would say now it's probably about 60, 70 doses of radioactive plutonium for every man, woman, and child on the planet. And this stuff it's in the soil, it's on the plants, it's everywhere. So
the tobacco.
It is. But here's the crazy part is that even with the chemicals, because they use Marlboro Reds as a base tobacco for these rats, and even with the chemicals in it, the tobacco as a plant was so powerful as an expectorant that none of these rats got lung cancer. And so they tried to publish this, the scientific research publicly. They were banned. These scientists even went before Congress, and it was swept under the rug. And so a bunch of these scientists started getting pissed off. So they took a batch of these tobacco rats and they put it in the radioactive plutonium tester, and 60% of them lived.
Whoa.
So the radioactive plutonium even was collected in the mucus layer in the lungs, and then the body spits it out rather than embedding in the lung tissue. It makes sense. So that's why they needed to come up with a scapegoat for the lung cancer to come up with why this had just come up. And also they learned it was an expectorant and protectant against the radioactive plutonium, which obviously as eugenicists, they ultimately wanted us to die and get sick from. And not just smoking it, but actually burning it even around you. So secondhand smoke, which then became the next aggressive campaign launched to shame and make everyone feel, I can smell your smoke. Well, guess what? That smoke's protecting your ass from radioactive plutonium. Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. So
I like it. I think it does a lot more than that, Micah. I think
it's a protection.
It's a protection against negative entities, and I'll tell you why. I think the whole agenda is there's demons in this realm called psychopaths, but there's demons in other realms, and they're basically harvesting with COVID and what they've been doing our energy and creating a lot of fear. And they do this, and the only way they can get to us is by injecting us with mass fear, by lowering our vibration with physical health protocols, but more than that, causing division through fear and news and all this stuff. Anyway. Tobacco, clean tobacco, guess what it does in the gut? You can prove it with science.
I've heard people do even tobacco enemas, where they make
and the reason,
water.
Well done, Micah. The reason why, because if you put in a petri dish nicotine with parasites, it kills them. So basically what I'm saying is it kills the mini parasites in your gut, which is a micro of the macro, which is the big parasites. So of course the elites don't want to say good, clean, quality tobacco is bad, because basically it kills parasites here, which kills you being seen by parasites in other realms. Basically your vibration goes too high because it kills the things that lower your vibration here in your gut, which is a micro and macro.
It makes sense. And every spiritual teacher, oracle, true psychic that I've been blessed to be around some very powerful ones that have actually, they remove, I've been a part of demonic exorcisms where I've seen the face of these things come out and be removed from people. And even they would always tell me they would frown on any medicine, even cannabis, alcohol, all of them. But tobacco was always okay. Tobacco always was like, this doesn't have the spiritual compromise to it because it doesn't affect the psyche in that way. It actually acts as a protective. Now, I'm not going to say you can't be abusive with addiction to anything, okay, folks? And we as a species, and especially in the Western culture, we don't know how to moderate. We don't know how to use things with presence. In fact, one of the greatest misuses of tobacco, friends, is that people smoke it mindlessly when they're stressed out and they're thinking about things and they're trying to calm down from being stressed. But here's the thing. In more conscious cultures, including the Native American cultures, they understood that tobacco was a messenger, that you would blow out your prayers and intentions with, and you would roll it putting the intentions in. And when you smoked it, it would accelerate out your intentions, your prayers for humanity, for people, which is this is the greatest misuse of tobacco in the Western culture, because people, they don't roll their own tobacco. They don't put their intentions into it. A machine in a corporation rolls it for them, right? There's toxic shit in the filters. Even if you think you've got an organic American Spirit tobacco, guess what? Here's the fucked up part. Even organic tobacco might be organic, but do you know how all tobacco is cured? With chloride, which means they put chloride into tobacco, and that's that burning, harsher thing that you get in your throat, that when you smell it secondhand, it's more offensive, because who wants to breathe chloride? It's fucking gross. So I've only found myself a couple companies, one of them being Peter Stokkebye's, that doesn't use chloride in their curing process, and you can feel the difference if I burn it. People that hate tobacco are like, oh, that smells like sage. It's actually kind of nice, because they're not repelled from the chloride. Because and that's the twisted thing, is even with American Spirits, oh sure, you might have organic tobacco, but the curing process had chloride in it. There's nothing organic about that.
Chloride is the same as chlorine, is it? The same? Chlorine's disastrous.
Well, it is, but here's the interesting part. Your neuroreceptors in your brain, which actually want iodine, right? Because the receptor sites actually, iodine goes into the receptor sites and activates them. And there's been studies that children's intellectual capacity increases by 30% if you give them nascent iodine through their growth process. Really powerful. Yeah. So here's what happens. Bromide, chloride, fluoride, they fill the receptor sites in your brain. If you're not getting nascent iodine, you don't have the iodine going in,
doesn't it? Displaces it. It's heavier.
Yeah, it acts as it's heavier, but acts as a filler. It fills the receptor sites. And that's why if you take nascent iodine, guys, you might get a headache. That's literally the bromide, fluoride, detoxing off the receptor sites, that the iodine comes in and goes, get the hell out of here. I'm supposed to be here. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's that detox that you're going to have. So there's a lot they've worked to distort with this medicine, but I found it fascinating that even in over 60,000 rats, over 6 decades did they do this research, which, by the way, you can't find on the internet. I have it saved on a hard drive because it was accessible about 10 years ago. No, about 17 years ago. Okay. When I was doing my radio show, I found it. Outside of that, it has been scrubbed. I haven't been able to find anything. They're testifying in front of Congress. They have erased it all. And I believe, again, because they don't want you to be protected by the things that will protect you from all the things they've been bombarding you with. So we talked about the tobacco, and I was like, oh, that must have been it, because I identified, what they did. And honestly, they've been trying to cover this up. That's why they launched this quasi-medical campaign for tobacco being this horrible thing, was because it actually, so are we in that much of a clown world, folks? Are we in that much of a world where the air you breathe is so poisoned already that you have to smoke tobacco to protect your lungs from it? And they know that. And so they've convinced and indoctrinated you that actually this is bad for you, because they know it's actually good. Don't you think it's a little strange with everything they're poisoning us with, that they're very over parentally protective about tobacco? Oh, no, but the tobacco is cancer. And they've launched it through the campaigns too. Those campaigns I grew up with. And this is part of my deconstruct of the indoctrination. I remember being a kid and feeling drawn to just tobacco as a medicine in general. And then I'd see these ad campaigns with the black lungs. And so when I tried smoking tobacco, even as a teenager, I remember thinking as I smoked it, this is making my lungs black. Like, it affected my actual, even though that wasn't my experience, my psyche was in that indoctrination. So folks, here's a little fact for you. If you saw a cadaver of a tobacco smoker of 30 years on the cadaver table, and we dissected this cadaver, and he didn't have lung cancer, his lungs would be as pink as yours. In fact, the only way they could tell that he smoked tobacco was on stains on his fingers, possibly, or stains on his teeth. Outside of that, healthy lungs are healthy lungs. Now, lungs with lung cancer, whether they smoke or not, are going to look black like that. Okay. So again, another sleight of hand manipulation on what they're showing you. They're showing you this thing that's a lie, because and then they do these little tests where they show the tobacco go into like a plastic bottle, and it shows it make the cotton they stuff in this plastic bottle all brown and black. Yeah, that's a plastic bottle with cotton in it. That's not this. Your lungs are the second most regenerative organ in your body. Okay. So they are one of the fastest regenerating organs for replacing cells. And that's why tobacco is powerful, because now the homeopathic way to smoke it, just so everyone knows, is to smoke a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the afternoon, and a little bit in the evening, because that creates a solid mucus layer. I'm going to tell you something. When I go to toxic cities like Los Angeles, where their air quality is shit, I always am intuitively guided to smoke more tobacco, because there's more of a insurgence attack on my lung tissue. So I need a thicker layer of phlegm now to collect that. Now, when you accompany breath work with that, now you're manually scraping out the phlegm and getting it out.
And urine.
Yep,
you could do loads of things.
exactly. Which we're going to get in. We're going to dive so much into all of this, and that's why I just want to clear it on this section that our little urine spot, if you will, our tobacco segue, is that this tobacco, if you just smoke, you can totally just collect a lot of excess phlegm in your lungs and make yourself sick. Okay, I'm not saying you can't do that. You can take anything and use it against yourself as a weapon, or you can use it as a tool. That's the thing about this realm and duality. That's also why they've wanted to program us to not have the discipline to work with things in that regard. So if you're not willing to roll your own tobacco, you shouldn't smoke it. Don't smoke something somebody else rolled. You don't know what the hell's in that or in that filter. Yeah. You need to roll it yourself. You need to put your intentions into it. And make it a prayer, make it a ritual, make it something that has significance and intent, or don't do it. That should be a guideline for you on all medicine moving forward. Any medicine you can use. You want to take some psychedelic mushrooms? Awesome. Make it something that's significant, where you have intentions and you're not just going to get high to do something to escape your reality. Unfortunately, this is again where medicines, even shamanic medicines, have been misused in the West. And ayahuasca is a big one. All these people are just doing ayahuasca ceremonies all the time as this spiritual way to get high. Guess what? In true tradition, outside of the shamans, you would do ayahuasca as a rite of passage and then not do it again for like a long time. And then it would be like something you do once in a great while as a rite of passage for yourself. Or if you were stuck in some way through your life, it wasn't something you did consistently and in an accelerated basis. And this is again where these little entrapments come in the new cage psychology that are going to be exposed, because folks, make no mistake, like Harry said, we are in a third density realm that is now shifting into a higher density, where 92% of what you can't see, 98% of what you can't see in the light sound spectrum from your limited senses right now is going to be more accessible, and you're going to be more in that higher place if you're moving through what's coming and these great earth changes in the end game, which is going to a higher density in this realm. And so as this happens, everything in regards to addiction will be accelerated in how these non-physical entities can access and mess with you. So you need to handle these addictions now. That's why it's talked about in ancient prophecy, going through these baptisms of water and fire to clear yourself. Yes. The fire being the mind, and the water being this water vessel that you're cleansing. So let's talk about one of the ways to utilize the water vessel to cleanse the water vessel. It's using your own medicine. Your body produces a medicine. Now, Harry, how many books you written? 8, 9? Where are we at now?
8. I'm just about to do the 9. Being lazy. 8 at the moment. But the thing is, I'm just thinking about this.
You lazy son of a gun, you.
Do you know what, bro? I'm very honored, because I'm actually really grateful, because what I've done with all my books is I've written on things that I'm passionate about. And do you know what? If I live long enough, every time I get excited and get a bit of knowledge on something or a bit deeper, I'll write a book. So basically what I'm saying, and I get so much joy from these books, people don't understand. It's just a little book, 150 pages. But basically what I'm saying is everything I'm doing, psychedelics, anything I experiment, all these machine techs you talk about, when the Rife machine, I'm going to write books on everything. My life is blessed because I get to write books about everything I'm passionate about, and nothing brings us more joy than writing books and doing talk shows and talking about things we're passionate about. It's an amazing life.
That's so true. And it's a gift and a blessing that you have created for yourself by using your skills, your talents you've developed as expression and writing and creating, and doing it in a way that now you've created a response, you've activated an awakening, and And now we get to choose the things that we share. And we really don't also, because it's all God's will. And we're really just, you know, we're celestial operatives for the divine, and we're all carrying out our different contracts and our operative, you know, missions and assignments. And they shift. And I'm sure you felt when you wrote your first book, let alone your third or fourth, you could feel how you're completing these missions. And then it's like, well, okay, where's spirit directing me next? You know, and like,
I'm always like, for every book, I always go back and forth. What should I write next? And I change my mind, and I go with intuition and gut and spirit, as you said. And I think, do you know what? I really want? All my books at the moment are the most powerful things that I've experienced in my life, because I don't really want to go with like, oh, it moves the needle of my health and vibration a little bit. I've never been about that. I want to give people, I want to build a reputation, a brand. And so far I have, in my opinion, on the things that move the needle of the health the most, whether they be free or now paid tech. So if I get results for people, then of course I'm going to build a reputation, and that's what I want, because I'm saving people time, energy, and money, and really moving the needle of health with these free and paid therapies that are worth the investment. Because I used to believe, Micah, that I come from the community on Facebook where I was so obsessed, and a lot of people still are, with free therapies and dead against technology. And and I was like this. I was very resistant, but I've been woken up with certain supplements, with certain life machines, with certain energy devices that actually some of these, maybe I'll trigger some people now, and I'll say that some of these energy devices, supplements and stuff, they're actually nature gone bonkers. They're actually people that dedicate their entire lives, like Raw Raymond Rive's a great example. He's not the only example. They've dedicated their entire life to one thing, and then all we're doing is hacking it by buying that thing that guy spent their entire life dedicated to one thing. And then we get the benefits of this. I look at them as some of these things go, they've gone nature magnified. They've gone to insane level. Tesla's a great example. Another one, Raymond Rive, Tesla. There's so many mad geniuses out there.
It's true. And again, you know, this is where, guys, if you pay attention, the mad geniuses become the ones that everyone sees decoded things outside of their time, because people didn't have the depth, because they were ahead of their time. The mass collective couldn't get what they were throwing down, you know? And then as we start evolving, like, humanity starts finding these people from 30, 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, you know, that their technology is now at the cutting edge of other humans coming and utilizing these holistic quantum science truths to apply to machinery, you know, to technology that ultimately, folks, you know, you have to look at the holistic truth with the divine. God loves variety. That's why all the trees don't look the same. That's why all the flowers are different. So there is no one thing you're going to use.
Yeah, it's like everyone's personality. There's no one that's had your life.
It'd be too easy. It'd be too easy. It'd be too boring. Spirit wants you to listen and be guided to different things. And if you get too locked in to one thing, Spirit will fuck with that. And it will sometimes, by throwing in something you might have been opposed to, that it will create a situation where you have to be open to it. In fact, that's what we're doing right now for you all. We are funneling you in to the uropathy, deconditioning, you know,
because
awakening
to me,
process.
Urine will always be a foundational, Micah, but and I'll always love Adrian. I'll carry on writing, speaking its truth, but it was just a stepping stone to me advancing into so many other areas of health, whether that be my physical being but if you affect the physical, you affect the emotional, the spiritual. So if I keep focusing what I'm doing and we keep sharing on physical health protocols, we're affecting everybody that we contain. So it was just the foundation you're in. And I'm very loyal to it, because guess what? It's the one that we always produce, that we don't need to spend money on, and it can transform your health alone. But let's
get into that. Yeah, let's get into that just in and of itself. Let's give people some base science with uropathy, with urine therapy, that they can look up themselves. And we spend our energy and time actually going through this all. We've already looked at the science, and not just the mental side, but both Harry and I have healed our bodies with this technology. So we are the living example of what it actually does. In fact, our journeys and our health challenges that we transcended with this gave us this place and position to then, with authentic conviction, bring it and speak about the science to you from a place of experiential wisdom that came from healing thyself. And that was one of the, we've talked about my story briefly, and we'll go in a little bit to it today, that I had MRSA staph for about 8, maybe 9 months, sores all over my body. None of the antibiotics were working. And outside of being the most painful thing I think I've ever experienced, over even breaking my heel, the one bone I've ever broken in my body, my life was in jeopardy. It like literally, this thing was eating me from the inside out. Nothing worked, and uropathy saved my life. And through the process of healing myself through uropathy, I became a conduit. I became a vessel to be able to teach others how to do the same. And I've helped them to do so.
Do you mean almost like it changed your life so much, Micah, you couldn't shut up about it and had to tell the world?
That's why we're here. That's why we're here today. I mean, that's the thing, folks, is that, and this is a good way to test things when you're open to new, because listen, we had a guy, Greg, the hydrogen man. I imagine he's probably actually listening to the broadcast, and I'm super stoked that he's going to hear this show because he's the hydrogen water man. So the uropathy is going to be a big thing for him. And we'll talk about some of the attributes of hydrogen also in uropathy as well. And elementally, and I can't wait to talk about the content of urine when we go through just all the mineral salts in the body, all this stuff. We're going to get into all that, folks. But my point is that Greg vets a lot of tech, because not only has he seen quantum tech that's inefficient and bullshit, it's fully out there to make money and convince people. And I'm going to put this out there, guys. And for those of you that are really into this, I hope this is a trigger for you. The Kangen water system. This is one of the first ones. It's garbage, folks. It's garbage. Okay. They use titanium plates in this. It doesn't make hydrogen water. So those that are telling yourselves it doesn't make it. Okay. Greg's happy I'm saying this right now, because he would be telling you this. All right. Not only does it might make a form of hydrogen in the beginning, but then the titanium plates don't do it anymore. And they start actually putting metal into the water, along with the fact that it's a carbon filter. So it doesn't filter your water well. It doesn't filter pharmaceuticals. It doesn't filter grandma's heart medication. It doesn't filter hormone drugs and stuff that people have, that, especially if you're in somewhere like Los Angeles, you're getting unclean water.
Do they put tap water in their Kangans? They put tap water and claim it filters. I didn't know that, actually. They put tap water. People run
tap water through their Kangen filters. And that's the thing, guys, is here's the thing. It can make alkaline water, but it doesn't mean it cleans the water. So if you like your Kangen and you like the alkaline component with it, you need a pre-filter to run that water through. The thing is that the system's really only set up to run off of a sink or a tap, if you look at how it runs. So what's one of the good benefits about it? It makes an acidic water. But guess what? Isn't that acidic water isn't that unfiltered from the heart medication and the fluoride and all the other crap that the carbon filter isn't doing? Yeah. So do I really want to even wash my vegetables in an acidic water that's still unclean? No, I don't. There's a company called Pristine Hydro, and they make a filtered 10-chamber filtered mineralized water that also has an acid runoff that's clean acid water. And guess what? It's not, how much is the Kangen machines? $3,000-$4,000. It's not. The base unit for Pristine Hydro, the portable unit, comes in a black suitcase, you can carry it around with you, is $895. And it is filtered through 10 chambers, mineralized, and it has an acid runoff water.
I know Pristine Hydro because their shower filters they claim are the best, and Luke Story, who I follow, says they're the best, so I do believe that. So now you're telling me Pristine Hydro do a water thing. Very well,
and I'll tell you why I can speak on this is because I know the owner. I went to his base place in Southern California, and he took me on a magical tour and showed me the density of his muscles, and that through this clean water, he's been able to filter out the iron oxide in the air that sediments in the density of your muscle. It's why even if you work on your muscles, if you push to a certain density, it'll be tough and harder. That is iron oxide, not good iron oxide from, all of the toxic chemicals that have been run over so much time that are now in our atmosphere that you are getting in your body all the time. All of us have a certain amount of iron oxide sedimented in our muscle tissue. And the cleaner the water you drink, the more it flushes that out of you, which brings us back to the urine. You are a filter. You're a filter. You don't just drink something and pee it out. Everything in that water dumps into your filter. And guess what comes out of you? The good stuff.
Yeah.
You're wasting the good stuff. Your you actually, what is it? The lowest amounts of deuterium are in your urine too, because deuterium's in all water as well. So your urine
Right,
is
and then
actually
probably the aged urine diminishes almost to nothing. Whatever little deuterium was already in the fresh urine, to be honest, because the aged seems to does amazing things.
Deuterium is heavy water. It's H3, guys. It's actually on the periodic table. It is a form of heavy water, if you will. It's a toxic element, and one of the primary things it does is it compromises the production of ATP in the mitochondria in the cells. It blocks the fuel production in the engine of each one of your cells. Now, you just think for a second on how that's going to affect all of your systems on every level. Okay. And
almost
so that's
like a heavy metal, these heavy metals. It's a heavy, anything heavy in the body is going to cause density. It's going to cause issues.
Exactly. And get us more into our 666, because the carbon-based material version of you has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. So the concept of 666, and they are trying to weight you down into the more material version of yourself in a process of lightening and going to higher density. They're trying to weight you down because they're weighted down, because they are weighted down from their karmic choices. They're weighted down from the evil that they've done in this realm. They're weighted down from the hyper direction and conductivity, overconductive side of the left brain rather than the right receptive brain. They can't even get access to the right receptive brain. And if you want to talk about the highest thing we're supposed to be doing, which is the sacred anointing of the Christos, of becoming the Christ, which is a title, the sacred anointing of moving the piezoelectric charge up and activating the sacred secretions of the pineal and the pituitary gland, you can only access that through the third and fourth ventricle. You can't get to the fourth without going through the third ventricle, which you have to be in the right hemisphere. So they've completely handicapped themselves from even doing this, which is why they have to resort to the consumption of these sacred fluids that they take from the innocent, that they've harvested and built productions around, because it's the closest they can feel to what what you can do naturally just by tuning your body, training your cells to work. I
might add as well, they've got guys conditioned to ejaculating to porn all the time, which is definitely stopping the chrism from rising, because again, you're releasing your sacred, not even sexual fluids, you're releasing your essence, almost like wasting your urine. I look at ejaculation, I'm extreme in that opinion.
Let's look at the polarized deception of that in the new cage psychology, where we have all these young men. Okay, now I'm a Taoist practitioner of 20 years. It's taken me a decade to actually pull the fluid from the testes through the vas deferens, pull it and circulate it through the body. Okay, it takes a lot of training, like so much training, guys. And that's why in the Tao, there's actually a phrase in these ancient teachings about and just so if you don't know, the Tao is a form of sexual kung fu. It is cultivating your sexual energy internally. There are practices for women, there are practices for men. Okay, there is a phrase in the Tao specifically addressing holding your seed. It's called stealing the tiger's purse. It's extremely destructive for your sex center, men. Okay, so I'm going to give you some truth, and let's decode this, because this is a big one for me, like it is for you. The deceptions of so much, even around the urine, is okay. We're too material. We're thinking too material right now. Okay, and let's look at the holistic truth reflected in it. Sexual energy is about energy, right? It's not about the fluid. If you hold your sexual energy for 30 minutes in the act of sacred union with the feminine, okay, which ironically is roughly about the amount of time to create the deeper orgasm for women. Let's review. There are 3 different types of orgasms women can have: clitoral, superficial, externalized, just like a man.
Like our one, ejaculation.
Same thing. And so many women get conditioned to this external clitoral orgasm. Okay. Vaginal, a little bit deeper, more connected, because it's internal. There's a deeper connection to the release, to the activation, to the bonding. Okay. And then cervical, the deepest, the one that routes the electricity through the entire womb. I've been waiting to talk to you about this from some of those Facebook posts. I remember I said we're going to talk about this on the show.
Oh yeah, I'm loving it. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm loving
it. So in that cervical orgasm, the feminine gets a activation through her entire womb. It stimulates her ovaries. It's going to heal anything like ovarian cyst developments. It's also going to heal any stagnant energy that might be from an unconscious male that you collected in your womb. And if you don't do these practices of internal cultivation, that's why, you see these spiritual things. All of the DNA from your partner stays inside of you as a woman, this and that. And so, all right. Well, you know what? That's true. If you don't have any practices to cleanse your womb.
Right.
Because it's going to stay stagnant.
So, Micah, I've got a question. So, linked in with the cervical one, is that the Amrita, I believe, and I've heard, and I do believe, the squirting, which most women can't do due to conditioning and trauma, is actually a good thing. Is that linked in with the cervical? Is that the standard?
It is. It's linked into it. They're not tied ubiquitously together because you can have a cervical orgasm without learning the divine Amrita. That's actually a more accelerated expression of opening your portal, your sacred portals, and your energy. And so, and here's the thing with that one. Almost every woman naturally did it as a little girl, but you thought you were going to pee. You thought you were going to pee, and nobody explained to you this is a different process than urinating because it has the same sensation of that's going to happen. So most women taught themselves through the ignorance of not having the knowledge explained. They learned to clench and shut that down.
Whoa! Have you heard quickly, Micah, about most boys? I can't. It hasn't happened to me, but most guys have before 12, before you introduce the semen, boys were masturbating. So 9, 10, 11. So before you produce semen, boys would masturbate and they'd have an orgasm. But because there's no semen, basically what they were doing was an internal body orgasm, which is basically what I'm saying is most guys have experienced internal body orgasms without the ejaculation.
Exactly. Yes. And this is a process that can be done. And that's the thing that I'm trying to share with you is outside of the ability to move the actual fluid through training your muscles to pull and your abdominal and your reproductive cavities to work together. I don't know if you have a series of cavities. You have a cranial cavity, you have a respiratory cavity, you have an abdominal cavity, you have a reproductive cavity. They're like tiny, thin balloon sacs that hold all of the internal organs. And in between them is a tiny pinhole. Isn't that interesting? That you can actually, that you can learn to pull through these cranial these sacs, these almost like thin balloon-like sheaths, if you will. And so when you're pulling and you're learning to move that fluid, it's a practice you have to cultivate and you can't force. So here's what I'm sharing for the brothers out there. If you can practice holding through controlling and syncing your breath with the feminine, and you could hold your life force for 30 minutes, which is around the time to create the deeper, more magnetic and explosive orgasm for the feminine. The two chis are supposed to be synced and released together. And that energy that's conjured is absorbed in the field. And the fluid you're releasing is just that now. It's fluid. Now, if you don't do that, then the energy is still present and pulsing in the fluid, and it's going to shoot right out with the fluid. So exactly. So, and that's the thing, guys, is you've been trained, because when you're masturbating, you're not trying to connect and pleasure and sync yourself with another individual. You are looking to get your drugs. That's what it is.
It's because people, we've all been trained to think that ejaculation is the be all and end all, because if you've only experienced ejaculation your whole life, you think that that's 2 seconds is so worth it. But if we truly understood and felt or got a taste of the internal orgasm, which I've had a taste, and you probably had a taste, once you have a taste of the internal orgasm in the prostate, which goes on for many minutes, and it's much more sexual, yet it's not at the penis end, that's where the journey starts to realize
it's also deeper.
Yeah.
It's a deeper bonding. If you think about it, guys, okay, our tool is on the outside. So if you're just getting an orgasm from the outside, it's external. That's why men are they're not as bonded through sexuality, because it's, and what I've seen with the masculinization of the feminine through this indoctrination that started with feminism and has just warped into the masculinization and depolarization of the relationship, because emasculating men will depolarize a relationship, and a masculinized female will always emasculate a male. He'll have to either feminize to maintain polarity with her, or if he holds his masculine, well, what happens with two masculines? They repel each other. So
Yeah.
our alternative in loving a woman is either to feminize to maintain polarity, or to make a stand and be masculine, which will naturally repel her. Does that make sense? And then she'll have to be forced to either go into her femininity or stay in her masculine. And here's the biggest thing I found. When we think about masculinization, ladies, I know you're going to think, I'm not masculine. I don't, this and that. Or let's look at the attributes of masculinization. Competitive, right?
Me.
Yeah. Competitive, career or victory driven. These are all of the, and by the way, these aren't qualities of the awakened masculine. These are qualities of the toxic old paradigm masculine, just like the feminization of men is not the qualities of the queen, the noble queen. It's the qualities of the bratty princess. So it's the over emotional, it's the unable, too over emotionalized. So the man can't make decisions and lead. So then the feminine doesn't trust the man because he can't lead because he's too over emotional. Because men, you can't be over emotional and make clear decisions and judgment.
Yeah.
It's not that you can't be emotional.
Have you read a book called Way of the Superior Man? I love that book, by the way.
I have, except for that has a lot of this indoctrination in it as well. That's unfortunately gearing towards the feminization. So let's make it really clear. We got the bratty princess and the dickish prince. These are the two reverse polarities. It's not the noble king and the noble queen. They hold higher attributes. Everyone's been programmed to the more adolescent forms of the toxic versions of their polar opposite. And that's what's caused all of the mess. And that's why our divorce rates were at one point at 75% in the Western culture, is because this is what's happening. And it's all been done by design. And what I've found the greatest handicap, the greatest destruction for the feminine is about masculinization. It's not being victory driven all the time. It's not being overly competitive or insecure, like all the qualities of the dickish prince. Here's the biggest one. It's your relationship with control.
With who?
With control.
With control. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The feminine has an addiction to controlling things. They justify that it's to make them feel safe, or they need to do this or that. It has nothing to do with trusting.
That's a masculine thing, control. Ego, feminine, divine feminine.
But it's a sneaky one that they don't realize, because they might be feminine in all these other ways, but they have an addiction to controlling where we go for dinner, controlling the aspects of the family, control. And if the feminine can't surrender control, she can't be led.
Yeah.
And she craves being led by the awakened masculine because she doesn't ultimately want to lead, even though she wants to control. So it's a total contradiction. It's like, I want to be led and surrender, but I want to also control. Can I control how I surrender and I'm led? You lead, but I'll just control how you lead. What? So, and then the masculine is so over emotional and indoctrinated to being over emotional and thinking that that's going to make us this more awakened and conscious male.
Just listen to her all the time. Just listen. Yeah.
And so we've also had generations of controlling masculinized women raise us. So then we've already capitulated and been emasculated and indoctrinated to this feminine authority. I mean, there's a book, I can't remember the name of it right now. It talks about this, that, like 80% of the teachers for a really long time were all women, because the men were taken out of the family and out of the workplace. This was also part of destroying the family, especially through the Western culture. So who were the authority figures for all of us boys being raised? They're primarily women in positions of authority, teaching us, scolding us, punishing us, sending us to detention, you name it. And so we naturally got indoctrinated to surrendering and submitting to the authoritative feminine, which
never even thought of that. So most schools now and before and now are taught by women. Not that it's a bad thing, but then if feminines are that's feminines, they're in a divine masculine role due to teaching, which is dangerous.
That's it. And then you look at how there were legislations passed in the United States, especially after the feminist movement, that basically opted for women to divorce or kick their men out and marry the state, because they could get more money to be a single mother and raise their kids. But unfortunately, what that does for you is now you're the authority. Now you have to be both. So you can't really be the mother, because you have to also be the authority. And that feels unnatural to your kids. So they start resenting you as the authority, having to do that all the time. And even if the father is a total shitbag, okay, the kids will end up martyring the father. And you might have put all this time into raising your kids, but in the long run, they end up martyring the shitbag father and resenting you because you were the authority, and it's all of it is unnatural. It's all unnatural. They didn't get to experience your softness. You had to become harder to be the authority for your kids. So they didn't even get to experience all the beautiful sides of the divine feminine. So I feel like we've been guided to this on Mother's Day. So it feels like really actually important, because I hope a lot of mothers and just women actually hear this and can work through what I'm talking about, because I'm not just singling you out. I've identified the masculine has its own distortion in the over feminization. And I know through that they don't make you feel confident that they can lead and that you can trust and surrender. So it becomes this snake eating its own tail, this complete destruction. Like, it's a self-perpetuating distortion that's happening. So we have to start reversing this inversion to maintain a polarity and come back to a healthy center. It has to
and it
happen.
starts with guys facing their fears, taking action, and learning to lead. Because I'm a great look. I mean, I'm not a great example in terms of a divine masculine. What a great example of is coming from really the opposite of a divine masculine and learning the skills of leading, speaking my truth, being authentic, being honest, being unconditioned, facing my fears and growing. I think the divine masculine always has to be tapping into his fears, always, endlessly. It's his growth, it's his purpose.
And finding a constructive way for their outlets. Finding a constructive way for their anger, for their aggression, or for their emotions, and not getting lost in them. It's not that you can't feel, fellas. It's that we've been conditioned to be over feeling, and you can't be clear and grounded and rooted for the feminine that's supposed to be able to do that. And this is actually, I'm going to give an interpersonal experience of this that really rocked me to wake up to this, because I was raised by a first generation liberal feminist, okay, mother. So, I didn't see how deeply that had actually affected my interaction and perception of myself and women. And so I remember getting to the most vulnerable place of my emotional expression with my partner at the time. And I was crying and I was expressing all this. And you know what was the craziest thing? Well, I was so surprised because I got a reaction that I was not expecting. I thought there would be this, oh my gosh, look at how emotionally connected he is. We would have this bond over it. And do you know what I saw on the look on her face?
Wait, disgust.
Uncomfortability and
uncomfortable.
kind of disgust because there was no place for her to be the feminine now. Because I was being the feminine. So
wow,
there
she was so
no
self-aware and authentic.
There was
herself
no
to
polarity.
Give you the truth.
She wasn't even aware of it. It was reactionary. She wasn't even aware of it. I don't think she even saw her natural reaction, which was normal, because part of her psyche's going, wait a second, I'm the feminine. I'm supposed to be in this. And so her role was kind of like the disconnected, unemotional guy who was totally unsensitive and was like, oh my, are you crying? Like, oh my God. And it was like, whoa, okay, I got to this place I thought was a goal that was actually something for me to achieve, to become a more heightened, evolved, connected, sensitive, masculine being. And it actually, in the polarity, it naturally did the opposite. And there was no excuses, rationalization, justification. It was clear as day. And I saw, oh my gosh, something's wrong with this. Something is off with this. So as I started to do deeper research into this, and so I've actually developed a program for men and women that's called the inversion conversion polarity therapy for couples, where we actually have to go through and relearn how to interact with each other, because it's intergenerational, this level of inversion of polarity into these toxic, polarized qualities that are actually neutralizing polarity in our relationships. It's not everybody. I'm not generalizing. There's still people I've noticed that have maintained the masculine and maintained the feminine. And you know what? A lot of them have healthier relationships. And I got to tell you, a lot of them are maybe of a religious side that most people are criticizing these days on the liberal side, which is Christian. And even some of the more traditional religions, like even in the Jewish religion, there's not a lot of inversion. They've kind of stayed true to the polarity side, and look at their family dynamics. Honestly, guys, they're tighter families. They stay together. They don't split. All this stuff is part of this liberalized psychology that we thought was in the name of freeing ourselves from oppressive things, and maybe it was at first, but it has been distorted and warped into something else now that's taking us away from our natural divinity.
Agree. I mean, look at the days when men were going to work and being the breadwinners, and then maybe, dare we say, having a purpose that wasn't completely focused on the family as much because they had to make money and do other things, which took the pressure off because their purpose was, yes, looking after the family, but they had other things on their mind. Whereas now we've got guys running around, okay, this sounds bad, but there's guys running around where their entire focus is pushing prams and doing the nanny work whilst the woman goes to work and makes all the money. I mean, that's completely depolarization, which makes the man in his core and his soul feel shitty, despite whatever layers of happiness he pretends to other people about. It makes the women feel shitty too, because it's the flipping of the polarization, which is bizarre.
And I'm not going to say that, you know what? I'm not going to say, because, you know, it's that is true. But at the same time, that could still be more superficial, because if those two people come home into their interpersonal relationship and the feminine diligently surrenders to be the feminine and the masculine still gets to be the masculine in their relationship, they're solid. They're solid, and they can still have whatever career stuff that they want to do. If he wants to do that, listen, I am a single father with 4 kids. I get Mother's Day cards. That's one of my proudest achievements, is my kids be giving me Mother's Day cards for Mother's Day on top of Father's Day, because I have to be both. And honestly, I can't think of it another way. I love taking care of my children. I also love living my path and purpose and bringing the healing sciences to humanity and helping people to see how they can heal thyself. So I'm dancing in the spectrum, and I'm okay with that as long as I can embody the frequency, the polarity that I am naturally imprinted to in the divine structure of how this place was divined. And that's the thing nobody sees, is we've almost questioned how it was all divined here, designed divinely here. And you see that with this gender stuff. You know, this is an example of a lost civilization, a lost people, because and that makes sense. We don't have any 6,000-year-old spiritual sciences. You know, I was blessed to be raised in the Eastern sciences in the Western culture. And you know what was beautiful about it? That is all these spiritual teachings that, you know what, listen, all this shit comes up in the yogic sciences. And I didn't realize it at first. I didn't realize that gossip is addressed in the yogic teachings as the lowest form of communication. Because number one, when you gossip about somebody, you're speaking about the past, which doesn't exist anymore. So you're literally talking about imaginary shit. Okay. And every person is growing and changing through time, which means the person you're talking about is an old person of them that doesn't exist anymore. So you're actually talking about a fictional person that's not there anymore, as if they were present now, which makes your whole conversation blah, blah, fucking made up. Blah, 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 blah. It's like doing that. It's gibberish. Okay. And on top of that, it reflects a greater reflection of yourself, that you assume that person is the same person they were before because you don't feel like you've evolved and changed. That's why you assume that they haven't, because everyone thinks everyone else is where they're at. Anyone who's growing and changing and aware of it is naturally not going to talk about somebody in the past and gossip about them, because they'd be like, well, I don't know where that person's at now. Everyone's growing and changing. They have that context. It's those of us that are more stuck and set in who we are. We assume as asses that they're where we're at with it. And most people don't have the conscious awareness to even do that, because most people don't have an intelligence level to psycho self-analyze. And I want to say, Jordan Peterson's a big advocate of this. So am I. Psycho self-analysis is one of the most important things you could do to put yourself in check with the narcissism, with the egoic mind, all of it. If you're not psycho self-analyzing your patterning, then the ego gets away with corrosive patterns that you end up gaslighting and justifying and rationalizing to yourself, which you're not winning in doing that, by the way. You're not winning at all. You're progressing distortions that eventually will probably cross divine law, and you're going to have to pay for that. And that's another big deception I just want to touch base on. The greatest deception I see in humanity is y'all haven't gotten that we come from spirit to this realm. But if you make a bunch of messes and cross divine law here, when you leave this place, you don't just go back there. You might have to go over here. And in prophecy, it's referred to as wandering in the middle. And there are degrees of intensity, and depending on how much messes you make here and how much innocent life you destroy, or how much you judge people, or how many false gods and goddesses you worship that were actually Luciferian from these non-physical entities, and whether you think you're praying to Isis, the mother god of the planet, actually they have spiritual copyright to that name, which means all your menstrual blood and prayers or whatever is loose harvested, is energy is going to those entities, and you just got played. You just got played. And that's why one of the greatest deceptions is this new cage psychology. So, I mean, we're in a time of war. So the most punk rock thing we can do, Harry, is talk about all this stuff right now. And that's why this gender distortion is a big reflection of it. In the yogic sciences, it talks about not being happy with your body, even your sex. Maybe you don't like some, that's part of the lesson. You have to learn through spiritual depth of awareness. I'm not my body. That doesn't matter. In fact, I was given something I wasn't super happy with as a challenge to get past it, because it doesn't mean anything in the greater spiritual process of why you're here. And unfortunately, because we don't have any spiritual teachings and depth of awareness, it's been distorted and externalized through the mass psychosis of the indoctrination that you should, then it's all about identifying in your body and feeling better it's all about your body. And so, oh, you're not happy with your body, then mutilate it with these hormone blockers and surgeries. And you know what? The younger you start, when you don't really even have a clue or any depth of conscious awareness to make decisions. Yeah, the children, let's start them when they're little. Let's do it then. Let's get them even sooner before they have any ability to discern in their thinking. Children don't discern. They're receptive and absorbing. So to have adults indoctrinating to this shit is evil. I'm sorry. Don't lie to yourself. It's evil. Okay? Just like killing a living being that has separate DNA from you. It's not your body anymore. It was your body up until the time that you chose to take the sexual act of union and its sacredness and irresponsibly use it. And for those of you trying to push the righteousness of, oh, what about the women that were raped? It's less than 1%. 70% undisclosed. 20 to 30% were willing to at least acknowledge it was for social or economic inconvenience. So what you don't realize is there are all these divine laws that weren't explained to us, and God doesn't care if they weren't explained to you. God expects you're going to have enough of an internal connection, despite what you've been bombarded with the indoctrination, like Harry and I, to sift through and filter through it like many other people and feel what is true and right and what is wrong and evil. And to see that the destruction of life naturally causes more destruction of life that's going to come back on your ass. That's how the quantum field works. It's proven through the science. Anything that you put out comes back to you. And all this stuff, I was brainwashed to it too. I was brainwashed to all of it in the feminist agenda until one of my teachers broke down the divine laws to me, that if you take a life, it doesn't matter in what context, you have to give a life. It's depicted through ancient text. And one of the stories in the Bible is the story of David. He saw a woman that he wanted to be his wife, and he killed her husband and took her as a wife. Now, of course, in the story, it doesn't really say if she wanted that. He just was like, like she didn't really have a choice, but he did. He took her as a wife, and they had a family and kids, and all the kids, the death curse was carried out on the kids. They killed each other. It was a whole mess. And David didn't die, but all the death curse was carried out on all of his children. And so as I learned more about this, I started talking to sisters of mine who have had abortions, and they of their own accord started looking at, oh my gosh, I had this when I was like 17. And then when I went to have my baby, there was actually two babies, but one was stillborn. And the other one was born premature. And then we had to be in the hospital for 3 or 6 months or whatever. And one of my beloved, my auntie or my grandma or whoever passed away and didn't even get to connect with my child. And she started tracking the different people that died around her, and of her own intuition was like, whoa. And she saw it for herself. So I started, and it was a lot of people I talked to that started to track stuff like this, even not just for abortion, but other lives taken. Somebody was like, oh, this guy tried to, fight me, and he ended up getting killed, and it was self-defense for me, but then this happened and this happened, this happened. So you guys, we don't really understand the divine laws here. And believe me, the laws of this world are reflective of the laws in higher realms. It's just how it works. Everything is a trickle down. Okay. And that goes for there are terrestrial, that's where we're at, telestial, which is other realms or continents or whatever you want to call it. I don't use the word planets anymore, and then you have celestial. Okay. And so everything from the celestial trickled down to the telestial, which trickled down to the terrestrial. And that includes racism and war and slavery and all that shit. None of it is learned, is new, is like we came up with it. It was all learned from higher realms, that it trickled down to this denser plane of existence that we're in right now. But the laws still apply the same. And honestly, the divine laws, they're not very overbearing. You got a lot of free will to live within before you go into these divine laws. They're pretty simple. Don't harm the innocent. Don't kill people, right? Okay? Like, do as unto others as you would want done to you. I mean, they're pretty basic. So it's not like they're really infringing upon your ability here, but we've deviated so much from our divinity and our true nature that we are, and we will, with what is to come. Mark my words. We are going to go through exactly what we deserve from how far we've deviated from. We could have had I'm just to tell you all right now, we could have had a beautiful apocalypse coming up. We could have had like a super, way more graceful apocalypse, but we have allowed the disgusting descent into darkness. We have allowed the globalistic control. We have allowed the genocide. We've allowed the human trafficking. We've allowed the abuse of children and the abuse of animals. We've allowed all of this. We have acquiesced to it. We have indoctrinated into our daily lives. From being children, we're told all these different things. This is how the earth is. This is space. This is dinosaurs, all this stuff. And we do it before we're discerning. So then it just goes in. And then even if you find stuff out later, you're like, let's say we point out things to you. It's like, even if we point out the best science, at some point your fall safe is, well, what's the point? Who cares? You know, how's that going to affect me? I still have to go to work every day, because you're so ingrained in the system, in the machine, that like now you don't even care what the truth is. And that's what we're here for. So on that, I want to transition, because we got to get into more uropathy. I want to give you the floor, bro. Let's go into the basic science of uropathy. Let's go into some of the biochemical aspects, and then let's dive into the alchemical process of aging urine, which is my most favorite and what I really, really wanted to talk about.
Yeah, sure, brother. So urine therapy is the process or the technique of taking urine in your system by any means, we'd say, because there's not just drinking it, although that's fine if you want to drink it. Basically, it's the blood is 48% blood plasma. It's the yellow thing. So when you take blood, you've got the red thing, and you separate it, you've got the yellow thing, which is 48%. It's the blood plasma, the golden stuff. That's why your pee comes out golden. So your urine is, like you said earlier, distilled by the kidneys. And here's the thing that may be a bit new to audience. It's also living water, so that like a distilled water machine deadens the water but purifies it. But what the heart does is it vortexes it. So the heart's not just a pump. The heart is the key vortexer for the structured water of the urine content. Wow. So you're dealing with, in my opinion, Micah, from synchronicities, I figured out the main reason why urine therapy is so powerful. We could talk about all day long about vitamins, hormones, minerals, enzymes, all amazing. But the truth is, fresh urine is powerful for the main reason because it's structured living water. Kidneys distill heart water. As a guy, you'll know because you'll see the twiddle. If you look down at your pitty hole as you pee, it's like a little
spirals.
Spirals. It's structured.
When you told me that, I was like, whoa, because I've seen it. And I've even seen it for the feminine. It spirals out of the yoni as well.
Right.
So it is structuring itself. It's literally, wow.
And then the aged urine, again, I could talk a night and a day, but through Monica's shoot and others, I've connected the dots. So the main reason that aged urine becomes more powerful is because the structure, which is already contained within the fresh urine, doesn't matter how sick you are, becomes super structured. And it becomes structured to a degree that we can't imagine. It turns alkaline. If you put an ort meter, it becomes highly negatively charged, true alkaline water in a sense, unlike Kangen. And that energy is electric energy. And when you take that super structured water, what does it do? It's a negatively charged. Everything in the body that shouldn't be in there is positively charged. So it's contracted and pulled out. It thins the blood. It gives you energy. It goes right deep into the cells, the aged urine. and then drives the ATP. It does so many things, and it's all because of the structure of water, which I'm big on. The water content, not so much the minerals, the enzymes, the hormones. The fact that urine can save your life. Let's be honest. If you've got a poison snake bite and you dip a little bit in your pee, that will save your life. There's so many.
Which is interesting because the one that most people, and this is always what I reflect, is like, you know, to a lot of people, this is going to be super abstract and like, you know, they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. And, you know, for you and I, it's more crazy for us that it's crazy for you because of how we've broken through the indoctrination and experienced the holistic truth of it. So now we're looking at how off we are as a species, that for the world, this is such a foreign and disturbing concept. But for us, it is the most powerful reflection of how amazingly designed this thing is. So it's common knowledge that if you get a jellyfish sting, they say pee on your jellyfish sting, right? And so people have even they've even accepted that, if you will, as like this, it's supposed to be a natural way to help with the jellyfish sting. And actually it does really help with the jellyfish sting. But do you really think that's all it does?
Yeah, that's a bit of a degradation and dishonoring of the magical medicine. And it's just a little bit of that little, like gatekeeping. It's pathetic, really, that stuff. It's unimportant. I did an interview recently with Jesse Hall, and not knocking him, but he brought up the fact that, because he doesn't do urine therapy, he's open to it, I guess. Right. But he brought up the jellyfish sting, and I said, yeah, that's what it does. Madonna, athlete's foot. I've heard them before, but it's way more than just that. If you just believe it's just that, you're completely, and also you hear a lot of people online in truth that will tell you, it might have some science to it, but I'll only do it if I'm desperate. Well, too bad for you, because this is an amazing tool to raise your vibration here. What are we actually here to do, Micah? Like you said, we're here to raise our vibration with all that we can do. Because, by the way, we can't focus on what other people can do in a sense. The only thing we can work on is our own internal vibration. And quite frankly, the way to work on internal physical vibration and all vibrations is to do urine therapy, fresh and especially aged urine. It's almost like it was designed by consciousness for you. And like you said earlier, we have been programmed, and the program goes so deep, because why the fuck I don't know who told me, I don't know if you know, does anyone know who told them that urine is a waste product? Because it's one of the biggest lies. If you there's so many lies out there.
I'll tell you, I'll give a couple examples. First of all, it's always associated with feces and pooping, right? Which, by the way, we also know that fecal implants are one of the most amazing healthy things you can do to actually heal and regenerate your digestive tract and your digestive system and your colon. And that's where they put enriched fecal matter as like a supplement back up in and reintroduce it into your system. Now, again, at the same time, to me, urine is in a completely different place. Not just where it comes out, but and in the instrument that it comes out of, but it's in the system itself. Now, here's something interesting. I feel like even in anatomy and physiology, it's put into the category of the excretory system. So even on a medical level, it's almost categorized as is part of the waste excretory, like this is the stuff that's supposed to come out.
And in their defense, and the problem is that we do know if we take drugs, legal and illegal, pharma drugs, which are legal and illegal, and that's why they do urinalysis, they do come out though on the urine. So I know why it is toxic.
It's a waste. 100%. It is. So it's almost like they were able to, by toxifying us, they were right. On some level, they validated the distortion of what it was. Now, folks, it's not to say that like even your homeless drunk guy who was just wasted, just so you know, all that alcohol, where's that going? It's actually dumping in his system. It's going in his fat. It's going in what comes out of him is actually probably the purest form of this man's fluids. So even, not that it's recommended that you're doing uropathy if you're drinking a lot, but even for that guy, just for perspective on how powerful your body is as a filter, that most everything that's going in this hole is not just coming out the other ones. It's getting sedimented and dropped into you. And what comes out of you is cleaner. I mean, it's medical fact. Urine is sterile. Okay. Urine has all the 11 mineral salts that the body requires. Is that right? I heard you talking about that, right?
Yeah, okay. She's honest. So, that's definitely true. Yeah, all the salts. It's a very all the 12 salts in the zodiac. There's 9 that we're born with and 3 that we're missing. So it's basically a resupplementation of the free mineral salts that everyone's missing, basically.
That should be like, whoa, if you're into nutrition, that should be amazing for you right there. Whoa, wait a second. I buy all these supplements and something I really need that my body's depleted of is actually in there. You should be willing to. Do you drink wheatgrass? You think wheatgrass tastes good? Most of us thought it was pretty gross at first, and you probably get used to the flavor. And then you're like, after a while, you're like, whatever. That's exactly how urine is. In fact, have you guys ever had a vitamin B complex concentrate, the liquid stuff? Oh, it's horrible. Think about how many things you have that don't taste good already in your nutritional regimen that you accept. So what's the difference? Is it the psychology that it's coming from you and what? You're gross? If anything, I feel like you should trust it more. I don't know exactly where that wheatgrass was grown before it was just pressed.
It's the programming of disgust, which is so strong that people associate. It's the programming.
And it has a greater impact on you than you even realize. It's not even about the nutritional side of the urine. This is a core distortion in your belief system, in your psyche, and also your consciousness directs your form. So if your consciousness is still in the indoctrination that I'm gross, that this is gross, that there's parts of me that are gross. And guys, listen, it's across the board, okay? We've been indoctrinated to think our smell is gross. Okay, that's why women will be like, "Oh, babe, don't smell me. I smell gross. I was just at the gym." No, I'm like, get over here, girl. That's the good smell. That's the smell. If I'm grossed out by that, maybe we shouldn't be together in our chemistry because my body's saying, we're not, that's why dogs smell each other. That's why animals have a scent for each other. We have been indoctrinated to put on perfumey soaps and colognes and smells. All right. And those perfumey colognes and soaps and smells have now alienated us from our very scent. That's why we think we're stinky. And then, of course, also eating toxic garbage and the industrialization and the de-evolution of food and our relationship to eating living foods and healthy foods have made us more toxic. And drinking alcohol has made us stink more.
And so the thing we can't say, that shot thing in the arm.
Oh no, we can on Rumble, but we couldn't have before. Yes, and of course, and the nanotech.
Because that when that goes in, that's got to come out. And some people that are relatively clean are going to detox it out, and of course, it's going to make your body stink as it's detoxing out after you put a major poison in.
Except for they've been working to make that thing not come out. That thing actually self-replicate and alter the genetic infrastructure of you. And now Gates just came forward publicly and said, "Oh yeah, we can actually reprogram this to do stuff without the person even having to do anything." Because it's because they can reprogram it through frequency.
I'll tell you something interesting, Micah, that I observed when I was in Portugal. I was in Portugal for 3 weeks. One of my good friends is there, and I've got a little place there. And we noticed, and he noticed that the Portuguese people, especially the men, their breath really stinks. And the funny thing was, it was a smell of death, like rotten meat, but it was all the same smell from guys. And it would be from their mouths when you talk from a distance, but also sometimes in the restaurants where it's just one owner and he's got really smelly breath. So we connect the dots a little bit, and it's these shots. But in a way, it's kind of cool because a lot of it is coming out of the body, whereas I've just noticed in the UK, no one has that smell. So what I'm suggesting, and I think is, the Portuguese people have a system, whether it's less EMFs or they eat healthier or cleaner than us, where actually they're taking these poison shots, and some of it, I'm not claiming all, is coming out because it's coming out of the breath and making it stinky. Whereas I've never noticed the same, and it happens so much in Portugal, you won't believe, with all the guys. And here, none of the British people have it. So there's something going on with either they put different types of shots, or the people here in this country, because of EMF proliferation, junk diet, whatever, it's really fucked up in Britain. Whereas in some healthier nations like Portugal, dare I suggest, at least they're getting rid of these toxins as they come in, some of them.
Interesting. Yeah, because I have noticed, I mean, as a practitioner, I and treating thousands of patients over 20 years, I actually smell a death rot that exists, that you can smell through the breath of some patients. And,
I know what you mean.
I originally identified it because I had terminal patients that were dying. And so it wasn't like a question. That was a signature I noticed of their terminal process. The body was showing a sign of its dying out, of the death of the cells over the life of the cells triumphing, and the final road of that. And so I've noticed this smell of death that comes with individuals, and some of them can be younger and healthy. And I think something else is going on from the bowels in regards to deterioration, and I do believe it has to do with the fact that our probiotic microbiome has been, when it gets compromised, which most of us have had because we eat things that just deaden and kill all of the good bacteria in us. Well, that means that the food isn't digesting properly. It's actually rotting more in our small intestine before it goes to the large intestine through the digestional tract. And I believe that you're getting a lot of the smell of excess rot to food because it's not being metabolized. It's not being demethylated. It's not having its demethylation process, the breakdown process, the metabolic process, because what breaks that down? Well, it should be stomach acid, you think, right? Because the acidic side, and that's also one of the compromises for alkalinity, is that if you're too alkaline, you won't break your food down, guys. You need to be pH balanced. So this is where this is where these distortions come. It's kind of like the polarity inversion. We've gone from, oh, everything alkaline, alkaline, alkaline. No, no, no. If you're too alkaline, and I have a vegan living foods company. So much of the vegan living foods is very dense. It's very moist. It's very high in starches, which are agitators to the digestion. It's not as digestible as you think. That's why animals that primarily eat vegetation have 4 stomachs, or like I said before, most upland creatures chew up those greens, regurgitate them into literally what's called a chud before they can digest them, because they're really hard to digest. And so there is something else amiss because our digestion's been under attack. And why wouldn't it be? Your digestion is the number one dopamine serotonin provider for your brain. So it's your happy juice comes from your gut. And so that was a very viable attack for those that are wanting to bring humanity down through a process when we're supposed to be going higher in awareness and consciousness.
It's also where the parasites hide all over the body. I'm not claiming they don't, but in the gut, there's just an infinite amount of them, and that's where they control us. And they literally do control a vibration to eat the wrong foods, to eat too much, to isolate ourselves when we should be connecting with people, to get out of depression. Parasites live in the stomach, like I said earlier, the micro with the macro,
and they affect your head.
Run the world.
They manipulate you guys, whether you're aware of it or not. These parasites, that's why, and it's the same with addiction, because as soon as you stop doing something, your body starts getting rid of it. And so it calls to you to put more of it in.
Yeah.
And whether it's cannabis or alcohol or whatever, and if you can get through 3 to 5 days of your body metabolizing out this shit before it manipulates you to put it back in, you'll notice you're clear, and you break the chains, and it's easier to stay away from it and keep distance from it. And the harder the drugs and the harder the substances, even sugars, the foods, the more challenging you'll be to really break through that window where it calls to you back. I mean, I'd say one of the most telling examples is when you do a fungal cleanse. Okay, because it's described when you do a fungal cleanse, because we also have a lot of like not good fungus in us as well as parasites. But with parasite and fungal cleanses, they'll tell you in the packages for your cleanses, or if you're having somebody your cleanse, you may be agitated because this stuff is pissed off that you're getting rid of it, and so it relays into you in your mood of being pissed off. And I was so weirded out, like, what? Like, I mean, killing this thing it actually can affect my mood by doing it. Like, whoa, it has that level of a stronghold to manipulate and direct me. Yes, it does. Think about it. If your gut is giving you serotonin and dopamine, which affects your mood anyways, why don't you see that the parasites and the fungus that collects, they're in the control center of that stuff?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they have some access to press the buttons and agitate, right? And so what's the digestive aspect when we drink our urine? What does it do when it goes into our digestive system?
Oh man, when you put structured water, fresh or aged, into a digestive system, it kind of, it's got enzymes in it anyway. And I think the aged, by the way, multiplies the enzymes that are already in the fresh urine.
Is
So
that
you're
the
giving yourself.
cloudy that you see in it? You think that's the cloudy stuff, the sediment? Because that's been freaking me out. And I see you with
Could be. I mean, a lot of people think it's good and bad, and I'm open
Oh
to
my
everything. I
God.
don't even know I mean, I do urine therapy. I've written books, but there's some things I don't even know, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever put a stance on some things that I mean, almost maybe the sediment.
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, here's the fun. You just made me think of this picture of you on Facebook where you had on the floor, you had like 25 jars of urine.
Oh, you saw that? That was my friends. That was Lucy. That wasn't even me. That was my friend.
I was like, that's so gangster. What's up? So each of those is aging differently. Is that what's up with that?
So you saw the different colors in that. And by the way, I do have notes here under my bed too. So the different colors are, and the rules of aging is this, just to crack into it. So for people watching, how to age urine is very simple. I don't teach a technique. All I teach is plastic or glass, preferably glass, piss in the bottle, seal open or top. It's still age anyway, a bit faster if you open the lid, but if you don't want the smell, close it. Let it sit. And what happens is, like you say, the different colors, well, the lighter the urine, in a way, the more fresh, the less powerful. And every urine will go darker and darker and darker given every day and week. So you can actually tell how old a urine is versus another urine, because the photo you saw, some were like yellow, some were orange, and some eventually after 9 to 12 months, Micah, have you ever tried the dark ones that are
that was like a freaking
taste?
Guinness. It looked like a damn Guinness.
Have you tried it? There's no smell to it at all. It's perfection. Like
Get
a Guinness.
out of here. Are you serious?
Oh, I'm deadly serious. I had
So
one
the older
recently.
it gets, the smell goes away.
Completely. After 9 to 12 months, give it a year and a half, definitely. It'll go completely black. Anyone's completely black, and there's no smell to it. And it tastes actually musky and beautiful. I don't know how to describe it. It's just shocking to people that just know, because most people only know the smell of nasty, which I like, by the way.
And they probably would never get themselves to a place to even try that. So when you get to that place to try it, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this is not at all what I thought it would be. I'll tell you after about, I think it was probably about 4 or 5 weeks, I just did little tincture bottles because my initial expansion in my uropathy practice, humbly, because I was like, I don't know how gangster I can be to do this. In terms of the aging, because I have had such a connection with fresh, and I'm like, it just makes sense. You're in the now. Like, I wash my face, I get in my eyes, my hair, and then I drink it, and I'll drink 8 or 12 ounces, and it's amazing, and I feel amazing. And I'm thinking, is this a model you fuck with? Is this something that do I fuck with the perfect thing? And so that's what kept me from, because believe me, as a yogic practitioner, I know about the practices of age urine. I've studied them, intensely through the yogic sciences and the rishis. But it just never was, for me, it just always felt like the fresh was always the most holistically magical. It's what healed me of the MRSA. Who knows what I could have done with the aged? Because after we started breaking the science down, I couldn't deny the science. I could not deny the science behind the fact that, as you said, not only does it strengthen in its medicinal intensity, but it actually processes out any impurities that might be left, or we won't even say impurities. We'll say anything that's not just, it goes to a higher level, even from what it was.
Pharma drugs. If you're on pharma drugs and the fresh urine, there will be a small amount in there. It's not a reason for it not to do it. But then the aged urine, if you wait a few weeks, honestly, it neutralizes all the pharma, because it's an acid format and this is extremely alkaline. It neutralizes all the bad stuff you could ever have inside.
That's a really good thing for people that are taking pharmaceuticals that are probably wondering, can I do this? I mean, you guys said that the pharmaceuticals in there, and so you would say,
a couple of weeks,
actually,
anyone's with pharmaceutical industry,
your
a couple of weeks,
pharmaceuticals will break
completely
down.
disappear. And you could do the experiment yourself, by the way, because I'm always encouraging, like yourself, Micah, to do it. So do this experiment if you are on pharma drugs, and and have a little sip what it's like fresh urine with the pharma drugs. You will taste the pharma drugs, yes. Let it sit in a bottle for a few weeks. Come back to the taste. Tell me that you can taste the pharma drugs, because you won't be able to taste it. That is your own experiment to prove it completely nullifies it.
Well, it's also interesting because from the first time I opened this after about 4 or 5 weeks, and I was doing topical, I had a plantar wart that was really bugging me, and I did ozone, do everything on it, and so I started putting it in a Band-Aid pad and just keeping the Band-Aid pad on it, and just kept, and just even from the moment I put it on the skin, it just felt amazing.
Yeah,
and so, but when I first opened it, it was strong, dog. It
Yes.
It was strong. But here's the weird thing. When I came back the next day and I opened it, it didn't smell. So I was also thinking, oh, is it also the pressure maybe builds when it's initially, if you
Correct. So if you close the bottle and age it, obviously that's going to be really smelly when you open it. And if it airs, it ages faster and it gives it a better chance for the smell to be released and it gets less sticky.
So how do you suggest the aging? Do you just put a cloth, like a cheesecloth over the top when you're aging it?
That's what Monica suggests. And that's the ideal format for everyone in the beautiful world. But I live in the real world. And in the real world, where you've got to hide it from your parents, from people coming in your room. Nah, just close the lid and leave it, hide in your cupboard. And when because a lot of people do this, they'll say, I'm going into urine therapy, I'm going to pee in a bottle, and they're going to get into aged eventually, and that's cool. But you can start getting into age now, prepare yourself for the months and years as you develop into your urine therapy journey, and leave it in a bottle, wait a few months, you just got some gold stuff there that you're going to blow your mind. Because if anyone claims that fresh urine doesn't do much, which some people do, and the reason why is because they're quite healthy and they're already in our communities, that's good. There's not much of a transition there. Well, to the same people that claim there's nothing, try aged urine when you're healthy and you can see the jump. It's very obvious.
Wow. Yeah. And also, I mean, I'm just, my brain's just going into like, because I brew kombucha and I've cultivated the super probiotic yogurt made from coconut that has over 62 microbial strains. And I'm a creature grower. I have a sourdough strain that's 7 years old that I bake with, and you have to keep these things alive. And also you kind of like, there's nothing better than we're about to do a brew cycle where we're doing a kombucha root beer, and we're doing a lavender chocolate pepper is the other. We usually can do two flavors when we put in about 6 gallons. And there's nothing more beautiful than just a stocked shelf of double fermenting kombucha up in my fridge that gets to just be closed for the next week and a half to continue fermenting. So part of me is thinking, technically you could be stocking up an aging medicine. Like
it's just
every
the most powerful.
Day. You could
and
just
the thing is, what you're doing is amazing, Micah, but these are all complicated processes that require time and attention. What I found to keep our life as simple as possible, because that is ultimately for everyone to get involved. Just all we're asking people to do around the world is to find a bottle, even a plastic one, dare I say it.
So simple.
And pee in a bottle, shut the lid, hide it, dig it under the ground, come back to it 10 years later, you got the most powerful thing. If everyone started doing pee bottles everywhere, which they're programmed to think is disgusting. Imagine if people find this bottle of plastic with 8-year-old aged urine, they'd think disgusting. No. Nothing could be further from the truth. That's the holy grail of your highest vibrational health, which ultimately will stop the parasites when taken internally, rubbed on your skin, put up your bum, up the nose, whatever way you take it. That dirty stuff is, of course, going to protect you from the world out there and what they want. Their control system. There is no control when you mess about with these therapies. You're completely free.
You're right, because holistic truth is not overcomplicated. It's actually beautifully simple at its core. And yet it's extremely complex in the fact that this inner physician is doing all the complex shit. All the stuff I'm doing to brew kombucha, this is it. This is the brew. This is the brew factory. You just have to open the tap and start bottling. It makes so much sense. And here's where I'm thinking of it the most in terms of like the prophecy that we've been studying, and many that follow us this studied in preparation for what's coming, is the food shortages, the harder times and tribulation ahead. If you were building a supply of medicine for yourself that you even just stockpiled to have when there is no medicine, you don't have access to different things, or even clean water, let's say, like you could have a stockpile of the most powerful medicine. And actually I want to, so you talked about something that really, that I already did, but I really liked how you described doing massages with it, where I already put in my eyes or rubbing on my skin, but you're talking about actually like really taking a long time to massage. And so actually I did an abdominal massage with it, where it wasn't just rubbing it on. It's different if you just put something on your skin, guys, and something if you massage it into your skin. You want to talk about that? Like that was really fascinating.
And this is something I learned from Monica's shoot when I started this journey 5 years ago. The idea that because the urine too, by the way, it's not like water. You know, normal water, it displaces, it doesn't go in. Because of the urea, I think, the aged urine especially, it really does go in. You want to massage it. But if you go over an area, like the best areas, if people are lacking time, is the face with the aged urine, the face, the neck, and the feet. These are key areas that we've John Armstrong figured out in the 40s are the most primary if you have got time. You rub over the face, the pineal, over and over again. It's basically, okay, so if you don't spend time and you only do it once, what's going to probably happen is it's going to go into the bloodstream. If you keep doing it over the same area, it's going to not only go into the bloodstream, because there's a bloodstream that vary 1/10 of a millimeter everywhere. You pinprick yourself, there's blood, you're going to bleed. But also, you do it long enough for a specific area, the urine's going to seep into each skin layer, fascia, muscle, and skin. And what I've noticed is it gets stuck basically in a good way, because it's medicine, for 24 hours after versus drinking. So if you want to geek out, I love all facets and I support everyone for any way they take fresh or aged in the system, the more the better. But I just noticed the difference with the aged urine rubbing over a specific area, like you said many times, the medicine stays in the system, because I can feel from body feel for 24 hours after, whereas if you eat something or drink it, it kind of goes through and it doesn't last as long. So that it makes to me a longer lasting use of medicine when you do the aged urine fresher and rubs. Also, it uses less. So if you're being tactical, you don't have a supply, you're in dodgy places, you use so little of rubbing it into your skin versus drinking it, if that makes any sense. It just takes a lot of urine to get to use. When you've got a bottle, you'll see, to rub it, you could spend half an hour, 40 minutes rubbing all over your body, and it still uses very little urine. It's so cost effective for free medicine, huh? Cost effective. What are we talking about cost for? It's free medicine.
Right. But at the same time, yeah, and especially let's say if you have a really powerful medicinal brew and you want to utilize as much of this unique one, happens to be really special, then doing the rubbing is a great way to, utilize and capitalize on that one, as opposed to the other ones you may have brewing. So just for everyone in reflection,
check this out quickly. This is I know it's a plastic bottle, but the glass ones, they break. But look, that's the one I was talking about. This one,
you put it in a spray bottle. That's cool.
Right. I know it's plastic, but it's a spray bottle. And this is the one I was talking about that has no smell, and it's like it's got to a very high powered aging. You're going to be surprised. There's nothing to this in terms of smell. I can put this one on.
Nothing. It's just flavorless. It just
musky. I lie. It's got a nice one actually. It's got a musky, really nice smell to it. And this is hard for people to grasp, because you have to come here and smell it and do your own experiments. But it's really, really it's like rose. It's like rose water. It smells like rose.
I'm laughing because I believe, and I'm reflecting, like, after I cracked that bottle and it was really strong. The next day I had to try to smell it. I was like, wait, it's not pushing me. Like, I had to go, I had to chase it. And so for everybody in like he says, in the real world, obviously, if you have the space, you can put a cheesecloth on top to age it, and then it will naturally, not have that smell. But realistically, if you're aging, what you do is you seal it and then probably crack and decompress the fumes, and you can seal it again, right? And then you just kind of keep doing that, and it allows
opening and closing it if you can, or
because then it keeps allowing it to.
It's going to stink. Yeah.
Right. But it's nice to do that, to crack it, release, seal it again, and then that also probably releases a lot of that pressure. That it might even help accelerating the alchemical refinement of it, huh? To allow that vapor
Definitely
to release. It does, huh? That makes sense.
100%. Yeah,
that makes so much sense. And then, wow, I'm it just makes so much sense, honestly. And I'm even remembering some of the musk you're describing. That's a good way to describe that. I wasn't smelling a stink anymore. There was not a stink. It was like but it smelled natural because it's made from us. Yeah. Now you're crazy in the sense that you'll drink animal urine. You told me you'll go for it. But
I'll go for it.
The basic construct is you want to drink ideally yours, but at least the same sex as you, right? Like
that's a good question. Yeah, I think so, bro. Because I mean, not in the short term. In the short term, to save a life or your partner's for sacred sex and to have intimacy and connection on a deeper level, it's fine. Drink
yeah,
your
that's
partner's.
special. Yeah,
Yeah, that's different matter. But long term, do I want to be drinking my partner's as much as mine? No, because of the difference with the fact that we've got 4 times more well, most guys don't, but ideally
right.
we've got 4 times more testosterone and estrogen, and women have got 4 times more estrogen than testosterone. So if you're muddling about, in theory, I'm going to eventually maybe stop growing some balls if I keep drinking women's ones all the time, you know?
And it is reflective that we are ladies and gents, we do have different machinery. We do have different circuitry. We have different.
It's okay to say that. It links it with polarity. We are one. It's
actually honoring each other more, to acknowledge we really do. And actually, this is one of the greater distortions in relationship is women and men are expecting each other to be like each other in how we perceive things. And that is not the case. In fact, honoring that differentiation is what brings the most harmony. And, you know, we've identified, okay, maybe physically we're different, right? Obviously. Yeah. But in terms of our relatability and our psyche, a lot of times I notice in relationships with couples that have distortions, they're assuming the other person should see things and perceive things the way they do. And when they don't, they get upset at them.
Just what I said. How can a guy perceive exactly the same as a woman if he's got 4 times more estrogen than a woman ever has? And how can we perceive as a woman if they've got 4 times more estrogen than we've got? Yeah. These hormones affect how we think and feel. Hormones. It's
true, because your perception is chemically based, folks. And although, as we've talked about in terms of the inner physician and healing stroma, that stroma is stroma, meaning when we all collect stress and trauma, and over time, that alters our filter of perception. So stress is going to affect each one of us chemically in how we experience life, how much peace we have, how much joy we have. But in terms of our general perception, in general, we're coming from different places just from a hormonal chemical standpoint as men and as women, which is, again, even more of the absurdity in this world of how they're trying to say that because we're not biologists, somehow we're going to distort the concept of what men and women are, when it's like, I'm sorry, irrevocably, both physiologically, from a hormonal and endocrine level, and even from the simple fact that you can't drink the other sex's urine consistently without seeing some effects that are probably going to happen from that. We are fundamentally different, and that is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing, because we have to come together to create this unified perspective. So, all right, let me jump. I want more urine magical, because I want people to feel, you know, because I've talked to you about that. I do something called the 24-hour pee challenge for patients of mine, especially ones that are sick. And I always tell people, drink your urine. Okay, drink about 12 to 16 ounces, and it's going to be super gross for you. And primarily that's because you're gross. Because because you haven't given yourself a biofeedback loop in a long ever. And so now the body is getting to taste all of its imbalances it's never ever checked in on before. It's never had that biofeedback loop in its chemistry system put back into it. And so it can be very intense for you. But if you go the next day within 24 hours and you do that first stream, it's going to taste different. And not only different, it won't be as offensive, because within 24 hours, your body has analyzed your system and gone, whoa, we have way too much salt going on in our system, way too much sodium. Why are all these metals in here? And it adapts within 24 hours. It changes its chemistry, and the output that you get is different. And I'll tell you, every patient that I've had do the 24-hour pee challenge will tell me, oh my gosh, it was different. They're not going to say it wasn't still intense, because they're still the indoctrination.
They're only drinking a small amount at the beginning. You said to do this. They're only drinking a small amount to get this change.
12 to 16 ounces. I mean, I wouldn't go under. I mean, I wouldn't go under 12 ounces personally. But yeah, even a sample. Oh, and listen to this. I meant to share this to you. So I was talking to Greg, Hydrogen Man Greg, about the uropathy, and he got fascinated with it, but he couldn't get past the gag part of the indoctrination. So he did some research. I told you this guy's a researcher, and he found this science that said that you only have to gargle because there is a sensor in your throat that processes the chemical makeup of the urine and analyzes what's off and can recalibrate it. Now, that's not going to replace the content of the medicine from drinking. It won't. But in terms of giving yourself a biofeedback, check-in,
yes, it's good.
As long as it gets past the throat, the body gets to sample the biochemistry. And that is from the science.
There's lymph nodes under there. It's like a reed, the lymph nodes. And even if you hold something under your tongue and you don't drink it, it'll do the same thing. Hold it under your tongue for 30 seconds or 20 seconds, and it'll do exactly what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing is I want you guys to feel not afraid of this. So here's part of the P challenge I give people. Okay. So the first time, pick a juice that's not your favorite juice. Okay. So if you like orange juice, don't use it. Use carrot juice or something that you're like, whatever, carrot juice. Cool. Let carrot juice be your pee chaser. So you have your cup of carrot juice, your cup of urine. Gulp, 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 gulp. And don't tell me you can't do this, because I know what the taste of fucking whiskey and tequila tastes like. It's disgusting. Okay. It's and you have to learn to like it because you get drunk off of it. Well, you got to learn to like this because you're going to feel healthy from it. And I'm sorry. What excuses do you have? So you got your chaser. Boom, 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 boom. Easy. Okay. You get it down. Now, eventually from there, the next step would be you're drinking it, splash your mouth with water. That's functionally, you keep a cup at the toilet. I would pee. I'd go to the sink, gulp, splash my mouth with water, gulp, splash my mouth with water. I'm giving you, like, you might think, oh, I don't need to do that. Well, you know what? Guess what? Realistically, you might need to, because what you're going to see every time you do this is the hard time you have with this. Okay. What's challenging for you, I promise you it's not the taste, because I dealt with this. It took me about 4 years to completely decondition my psyche that I was gross, that this was waste, to where I could drink it. And there wasn't a part of me that didn't have complete awareness. This is a powerful medicine. And that was a liberating place to get to have the full awareness that this is a sacred medicine. This isn't gross. It doesn't matter what the taste was fully embraced as part of what the medicine was, just like wheatgrass. So I'm telling you, until you get to that place, and it's a process, it's okay that you have to use whatever support system that you need to. But what I saw every time was it wasn't the taste overall. It was the psychology of what I was doing.
Exactly.
It was how deeply it was in me that I'm gross and this is gross. And that continued to fuel me to not want that to be there, because that felt unnatural as hell. And I want that out of me. I know I'm not gross. I know I'm a sacred machine. And so this is part of what you chip away at, with the awareness that I'm going to get to a place where I get all of this indoctrination out of me. And it was exposing to see how deeply it had been laid in me, even a more awakened practitioner, yogic science, conscious about all these different things. And look at what this piece of indoctrination I still found about my grossness. And that's what I wanted to.
I was really lucky, Micah, because I came from this. Literally woke me up into physical health, drinking urine. I was open-minded, read the book, was excited but really cynical. And the thing was, my diet was tap water, junk food, meat, and all that shit, and no fasting or no intermittent fasting. So in a way, I was really lucky, because I drank urine from that state, really toxic, had a major detox reaction the first few days, and yet my brain woke up from this depression I didn't even know I had at the time. So basically, the vibration shift was so huge, I knew that my life would never be the same again. It was such a huge vibration. I think the problem is a lot of people don't commit to these things because there's not enough vibrational jump when they take it, plus what you said about the conditioning. And even sometimes when a medicine does have a vibrational jump, believe it or not, some people are so powerful in their programming that they can almost ignore the fact that their breath has slowed down and their consciousness has expanded when they do something like aged urine, which is bizarre. Okay, so I'm saying people are so powerful, the programming can nocebo or something that's really powerful. You have to have huge awareness of your body feel. Not huge. You have to care enough to know what's going on in your body. Because one of the first things you do with the aged urine, when you drink it or take it in, your breath slows down a lot. One of the keys to health is your breath slowing down. People that get ill, but Checo found ages ago that people that get ill have too fast a breathing rate. Think of mouth breathers.
They breathe shallow.
Yeah,
and
shallow and not deep. This is the problem with most of the people in the world. When you drink or take in the aged urine, the first thing you'll notice, and it's very obvious, is the breath you can do Wim Hofs much longer. It slows it. You become more alkaline, whatever you want to call it. Your breath slows down, and then guess what happens to your mind? The monkey mind shuts off and slows down. The craziness of your depression, of what do they think of me, and worries and low vibration thoughts, they just completely switch off. Again, coming back to why entities fucking hate urine therapy, and why they have set up, the biggest reason I think why they've set up urine therapy as a waste product is because it takes you away from their control, so they can't feed off you in this realm and in the other realms. They're trying to feed off you too. That's the biggest reason. Honestly, I think that's the actual truth. That's the biggest reason. It's, they don't want you to die from, they don't mind the fact that urine therapy is a waste and you can live forever with it. They want to feed off your fear energy because you're low vibration, as long as you don't take this product. Oh, this product, this thing that you make underneath. Once you take it and you realize it and it's on tap and you don't have to charge for it, and like we said earlier, you can just pee in a bottle, save it, and it becomes magical. It's game over for the entire control system. It crumbles with one thing completely.
You just touched on something that's fairly significant, that I love it, the syncretic side of it, because I was going to bring up that's one of the things that does happen for you is, and I know it was more significant because I was, it's a scary thing when you can't heal yourself of something and you really try, for anyone out there, who you have an ailment, you hurt your, let's say you broke a bone and, it fused, but your leg's never been the same, and you try different things. It's sad, for you. It's disempowering. It's almost disheartening, and like life becomes glim. And so there's a powerful hope that comes when you do something that actually starts healing you. So for me, when this MRSA staff started to, retreat, and for the first time something was making it, not happy, because I was at war with this thing for 8 months, guys. That's the thing. When you have a flesh-eating bacteria, you go to war with it. And you know what I had that from? Being a raw food vegan, eating too many desserts at nighttime in a very humid environment. I got too much moisture from that food in my system. And then this, staph is everywhere. So it's on your skin, it's everywhere. It's only if it becomes systemic. And it can, when you create the conditions inside of you for it to be able to thrive. And so one of the things that came for me was a feeling of safety, bro. Like we all have and that's also why I believe they don't want you to know about this, is they've built an industrial, medical industrial complex that they want you to think when you're sick, you got to go to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital and to the doctors and they couldn't do anything, then it's even more like, whoa. And so when I saw I could heal this Titan that I felt like David and Goliath I was fighting against, and I could take down Goliath myself with my own medicine. I really, not only was I overwhelmed with a feeling of safety and security against anything that could be thrown at me, but I was so empowered in seeing not just my power, but our power of our technology. And then I just was blown away with how hard they've tried to keep us from being aware of that. They don't want you to know that you produce a medicine that could cure anything that's wrong with you, because then that makes them obsolete. Why would they ever want you to know about that?
And then you become your own doctor and they lose all of the money, and then you just become your highest vibration best self, and then it's game over for everything.
And then they have indoctrinated you through film and television. You don't even realize it. That's why in the film scenes, it's always seen as this thing, like the guy gets beat up and then they all piss on him on the ground, and it's looked at as this, it's always been looked at and supported and indoctrinated through the television,
or sexual dirty fantasies of the golden shower,
weird stuff like that too. Where it's like, oh, it's so gross, or they reference in some way, someone's peeing and it's stinky, or they make it, they emphasize, and guys, I don't think you realize how much this has gotten in here. Your brain's in an alpha wave state when you watch these screens. They learned that in late 60s, and they launched hundreds of studies around it after they figured that out, after the first study came out around it. It's going in your psyche. and along with all of the indoctrination that you've been shown of humans in movies and plots where they take him to the hospital, he's hurt, we got to go to the hospital, he's gonna die, all that recycles in your psyche because these controllers know how the mind body paradigm works. And by the way, I want to make also, here's something interesting. The urine of a child before 7 years old is the most medicinal urine on the planet. I don't know if you knew that.
Agree. And yeah, I heard of
highest
it. Agree.
Stem cells.
I've never tried it, and I want to try babies because I've heard.
That's a good thing about having kids, Harry. If you ever have kids, you're gonna be in heaven,
dude,
brother. You know what I do?
Man. I'm jealous.
I take these diapers and I take my daughter's diapers and I wrap them around my feet. I slap them right on my feet. They got the little Velcro from the diaper, and I just slap them on my feet, and I just relax, and I get a full foot treatment. Like you said, hands and feet. You don't have to. It's already super saturated in the diaper. It's warm. I don't. You guys probably think this is gross, but for Harry and I, this is just a great idea. This is really smart.
Mental masturbation in a good way. What I was going to say is, bro, do me a favor. Collect their pee in a bottle.
That's the tough one. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah,
because it's hard to. That's the tough one. If you can, we're in that stage where we're doing the potty training, where if you get your little one to pee in the little, they have these little plastic. Well, it's like a little mini potty, but it has an insert that comes in and out. That would be the way that you could do it. And now, because of the aging side, now I'm even more fascinated with, like that would be the next level pedigree stem cell, higher level.
And the babies and an aged urine babies would be the pinnacle of highest human health I could think imaginable. Yeah, because they're more pure when they come out. And then the world 100%. Impurifies us.
Yes, yeah. And by the way, here's a little for those of you that are aware of the cabal of the Luciferians, of the child trafficking, of these sick pedophiles, and of the, all the, just so you guys know, and there's plenty of records of it. You can see, what's his name? That guy from The Office, the sicko with the glasses, who is a publicly.
Is he Ricky Gervais?
Huh? No, the weirdo guy that was always kind of like.
Oh, I know, Stephen Merchant. Yeah, Stephen Merchant, the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so he was quoted in some Twitter statement that he made. No, his name's Ryman. Anyways, he talked about he was making some comment that everyone thought was weird about baby urine, but I'm telling you, these sickos, especially in the Luciferian side of all of it, they understand the power and purity of children down to the urine and everything, and that's why he made some comment on Twitter that everyone thought was weird, where he talks about how he liked to take the baby's urine and put it on his face and hair and this and that and whatever. But he was referencing like after he had his disgusting perverted way with it. But my point is, it's because even in their sick distortions, Rainn Wilson, there he is, Rainn Wilson.
Oh, I know that guy. Yeah, sorry.
Yes. Yeah, he made a comment on that. Thank you very much, Emery. And about this. And it's because they still know that's how sick they are. They're educated in a lot of these medicinal aspects of the true nature of our divinity, although they live in a society that perpetuates the willful ignorance. So, this is power, to know the knowledge around your body and its medicine. It really is.
By the way, brother, I've got to go. I've been up way too long.
Yes.
I really appreciate you having me on.
100%. I know my producers were like, well, we're going over. And I was like, yeah, maybe we can go to 222 because it's the number of the mother. But bro, I'm so grateful for your time. I know it's late there. And is there anything else you want to share for anybody in regards to uropathy?
Yeah, I guess so. If anyone's interested to learn from more about what I teach, I'm on Instagram, Discover Harry. The main thing is I've written 8 books, but my bestseller is the aged urine one. I'm the only person to have written a book on aged urine. So if you go on Amazon, type in aged urine. I mean, people have said to me before that their newcomers, mine is the first book now. I'm finding out that because it's got so many reviews, it comes up a lot. So if you're interested in aged urine and you want to find out more, I've got 2 books on aged urine. Buy Aged Urine Discovery the Century if you're a newbie, learn about it. And you can also personally contact me through Facebook, Instagram. I am sociable and I do like to talk about these things. So yeah, if anyone wants to reach out to me, it'd be a pleasure to talk to you.
And then we'll put your links also that you gave me into the body of text as well. And
cool.
And then I hope to see you out here because
I would love to meet you, brother.
I'm excited for you to experience the neuromuscular release therapy and see how activating the nervous system is going to relate to, you know, your urine therapy practices as well, because the body's integrating for like a week processing after. So it would be interesting to see how you gauge your uropathy practice and if there's any changes in it after we activate your nervous system. So this is a cross-pollination. I'm so excited to bring together with different practitioners as we continue expanding on the overall awareness that you can heal thyself. You have everything that you need to do so. So in that regard, guys, don't be afraid to pee. Listen to the golden dwarf here, okay, and all of the magic treasures that he's talked about, and we're both excited to continue sharing. We'll probably do a follow-up show, talk more about all of this.
Bro. I'd love to come on again.
And 100%. It's an honor having you. And so everybody, we'll see you guys next week. Our YouTube channel will not be banned. It actually becomes unbanned tomorrow. So we're going to take this show and we're actually going to post it on there since we weren't able to go on today. This is why we had to be on Rumble, and we'll be back next Sunday with our next guest. I'm not even sure who we have next week, but we have, and I think it might be, I'm not even sure, but we'll post it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next Sunday, and we'll see you for tomorrow's Monday Matrix Body Mechanics Live. And we got a lot to get into about what's going on in the external world outside of our inner universe and what's going on as we move closer, unfortunately, towards it appears to be a world war in regards to what's been festering and what the cabal is trying to trigger. And if you haven't gotten a chance yet, see 2000 Mules. It premiered last night, undeniably exposing the greater election fraud that took place in America, and there's just no denying it. Yeah, and we posted the entire video in HD live on our Intel channel at MBMT channel on Telegram, and the chat room at MBM Truth Room. Check it out. We're updating daily. I'm actually going to get back on there, and there's a lot already going on following the premiere of this. We watched it last night. Jaw-dropping, undeniable. I mean, basically, they took the cell phone tracking of everyone and found thousands of people, human beings like us, that were basically through ideological mass psychosis convinced to ballot stuff, and they found and matched the tracking of their cell phones with the video footage of them dropping in the boxes to 27, 28 different ballot boxes per state. These people were becoming mules doing this. So it was an organized thing. And I really recommend, whatever party you are, it's about integrity and truth. You should be willing to look at this, even if it's just to disregard it. So I just wanted to put a little drop. That's my service, to be able to play a role at all in exposing a lot of this. And Harry, again, so honored to have you on.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next week, guys. Aloha and Satnam. Two frogs in trouble, that's the name of the tale, yeah. Big frog snooze near the pond as the sun warmed the large hump of his back. What a great day for doing nothing, he thought to himself. Blip, 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 little frog took off for the pond, and Big Frog's eyes were wide open now. Plop, plop, ploppity plop, he followed little frog, and together they crossed the pond to the barnyard, playing leapfrog and hide and seek along the way. They were having so much fun, they forgot that it was milking day. Plop, plop, they jumped straight into a pail of fresh milk. The sides were slippery and the frogs couldn't get out, help, help. At least that's what Big Frog yelled. Hoping somehow to escape, the two frogs swam around in the milk pail. They swam for hours. Big Frog began to swim slower and slower. Finally he groaned, why should I keep on trying? We will just die in this pail. I'm just so tired. I can't swim any longer. Keep on, cheered the little frog as he splashed around the pail. You must have the courage or you're gonna drown, don't give up. And they went all together for a while. Soon Big Frog stopped swimming. Little friend, it's no use, I can't get out. I'm gonna quit, I'm going to quit trying. So we did.